Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. We have the 2026 New York Giants schedule. And obviously a lot of anticipation, this year with it being John Harbaugh, first year as New York Giants head coach. And, in looking at the schedule, we're going to break it down from all angles. I think the first thing that jumps out is primetime games in the first 2 weeks of the season, starting out with what is going to be a huge game against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football at MetLife Stadium, which I think probably brings back some not so good memories to the start of the 2023 season, which was as well against Dallas on Sunday night. Now, we've seen a lot of Giants Cowboys games in week one, not as much recently, right? I mean, you take that one away and, in the 2020s, I want to say that was the only one that was a week one game, but that was a thing for sure. A lot in the 2010s, mainly games in Dallas and mainly games the Giants didn't win. Now, the Giants did win in 2016 in Dallas, which was a rare playoff appearance for them. We haven't seen many of them, but when they do win week one, 2016 and 2022, when they were at the Titans, they have made the playoffs. And all the other times, you want to go back again, probably as far back as 2013-ish, maybe even beyond that. I think that I think they lost in 2012 as well. Like, there is correlation where typically the Giants lose week one and then they don't make the playoffs. So it goes without saying that week one is a huge game against Dallas. And then week two, Monday Night Football at the Rams, which obviously that's going to be a tough one. The Rams will be coming off of a game in Australia. It's a Thursday night game the week before. So figure by then, there shouldn't be much of an effect, but it's worth mentioning that, there is a little bit of a turnaround there that they won't be used to, but still, that's going to be a tough matchup. There isn't much of a home field advantage from a crowd standpoint. There'll be a lot of Giant fans at that Ram game, but that is a tough one, no question. But a theme here, and by the way, there's 4 primetime games, those first 2, as well as a Thursday night game against the Commanders in week 10 on November 12th at MetLife, and then the third to last week of the season at Detroit on Monday Night Football. So it ends up being 2 Monday night games, a Thursday night and a Sunday night, 4 overall. Subject to change, of course. There's, of course, flex scheduling that occurs more so at the end of the season. But where the Giants can really make some things happen is the first 6 weeks. And again, that Cowboy game is huge, right? Because if you lose that Cowboy game, you could very well be looking at 0-2. And then from there, I understand hopefully with Harbaugh things are different, but you never know. It could, I don't want to say spiral, but week 3 is home against the Titans. So the return of Brian Daboll as offensive coordinator of Tennessee, Wan'Dale Robinson, who else? Cordell Flott, Daniel Bellinger, Austin Schlottman, like just like a whole bunch of former Giants on that one. So a bit of a reunion of sorts. And then week 4 home against the Arizona Cardinals. So you're hoping to somehow in that first 4-game stretch go at least 2-2. I think that's well within reason. I mean, the Cowboy game is a bit of a coin flip, and I think you're going to be favored home against the Titans and against the Arizona Cardinals. Certainly against the Cardinals. Against the Titans, the way I see it right now, it's certainly very winnable for the Giants to win that game. And week 5 and 6 at the Commanders, home against the Saints. So in the case of the Saints, that was the last place NFC South team. So, really, honestly, that division's so bunched up that I wouldn't say that the Giants necessarily got an advantage or disadvantage from that, because we're going to talk about a couple other ones where they did gain an advantage and one where they didn't, in my opinion. But that one, good thing it's home against New Orleans was, it's been a bit of a house of horrors when they've gone to the Superdome. But yeah, I look at those first 6 weeks, you got to find a way to go 3-3 or 4-2, right? I'm not looking for, look, expectations need to be in check here, but I think that that's your spot where your season's going to be determined in those 6 games. Now, you have one more game before the bye, and it's at Houston, which is a tough one. And then it's your bye week. So the way it works out is it's 7 games, then a bye week in week 8, November 1st, and then you have, of course, 10 out of that. And to me, that initial stretch is easier than what becomes. The schedule gets tougher and tougher as we move along here. You come out of the bye with a couple of divisional games, one at the Eagles, and then the Commanders on Thursday night, like I had talked about before. So a bit of a quick turnaround there, but a couple of very important divisional games. And in fact, the way it works out with the divisional games is so you have the Giants playing the Eagles and Commanders in week 9 and 10, and then, kind of moving forward to the very end of the season, it's back to back against the Cowboys and Eagles. So with the way it works, those divisional games are going to be massive in terms of, look, I don't think the Giants win the division, in my honest opinion. Like, that would be great, but I think more realistically, if they're going to make it, to be via the wild card. But, those are going to be, really important for so many reasons. Then you have a couple of AFC South games in week 11 and 12 towards the end of November, home against the Jaguars, then at the Colts. So if Daniel Jones is still healthy at that point, it's the first game against Daniel Jones for the New York Giants. Not at MetLife Stadium, but in Indy after Thanksgiving weekend. And so, again, like, it's getting a little bit tougher. Then it's home against the Niners. And then it's at the Seahawks. So a couple of, NFC West opponents right there, and it won't be easy. And as of now, subject to change, the only 425 game is at Seattle, which has to be, right? It's a West Coast game on the road. It literally has to be. Everything else is 1 o'clock, right? Of course, there's the primetime games I discussed. Everything else, as of now, is 1 o'clock. And that continues a theme. There have not been many, and because the Giants haven't been very good, there have not been really many, if at all, like 4 o'clock Giant games at home, like, that get like the, grade A, team A, broadcast crew. And that kind of continues again this year. Then the Giants host the Browns on December 20th. And that's would seem to be a good result in terms of where the Giants were, that last place schedule. It got them. That is the extra game, is the Cleveland Browns, the AFC North last place team. So on paper, that should be a good one, but you never know, right? I mean, that division, but I think you would have to say that Cleveland would be the easiest opponent, but that's way down the road. And then Monday Night Football is the Detroit Lions on December 28th. Now, that's where the Giants didn't catch a break, for me, where the Giants finished in last place and landed on Detroit, because they happened to finish in last place, because every team in that division, I think, had at least a 500, I think every team in the division was like at least 9-8 or over, which is ridiculous. Like, the Vikings ended up having a late season push, because would have felt better about that matchup. So there's that Monday night game, and then the last 2 games at the Cowboys, and then home against the Eagles. So, like, I wouldn't call it murderer's row, right? You have that Browns game thrown in, but just generally speaking, right? I'm not sure you want to start it, but it just gradually is tougher. But the good news is like, there's less certainty at the end of the season. So maybe, it could look entirely different, right? Where you can more easily predict the beginning of the year. And that one, to me, doesn't look crazy, but that Cowboy game is big, because if you don't win it, I think there's a very good chance you're looking at 0-2. So I can't stress enough how, as much as those first 4 to 6 games are winnable, you win that first Dallas game, I think, can set you up. You win that one, you really could be looking at like a 4-2 record through 6 games. And then from there, confidence grows, and who knows what happens, because the truth is that there are certain pockets of games that you can win, right? Like, just looking at, that Commanders Thursday night, and then home against the Jaguars, like, even at the Colts, like, those are some winnable games in there, not easy. And then you have, again, that NFC West stretch with the Niners and Seahawks, which I think is difficult. And then a Browns game, and then Monday night at Lions, at Cowboys, home against Eagles. So how you do in the division is going to be massive. And, we'll see. 2 primetime games to start. And the Giants haven't been good in those night games, but Looking forward to it. That's kind of my, overview and look at this 2026 Giants schedule. And let's see what happens. First year of John Harbaugh, and the Giants are going to be looking to turn things around after a whole lot of struggles. Don't want to see them yet again, in a situation where I'm basically rooting against them, in September, quite frankly. That's happened a lot. So here's to hoping that the Giants can turn things around in 2026.